Right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? We've got all this technology and we've got a burning platform to make sure we can fix some of our societies all around the world. But we've got all the foundations in place to build this now, right? And I think that we have to be optimistic, but it means redefining what we think of as work, redefining a little bit around what people need as a society in terms of payments and services.
We have the pleasure of welcoming Andrew Spence today to our interview series. I'm your host Anushka Rajesh from the peopleHum team. Before we begin, just a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM, that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Andrew Spence is a workforce futurist, writer, global speaker, and HR technology board advisor. He has been recognized among top 100 HR tech influencers 2020 and 2019 Human Resource Executive and HR Technology Conference, Top 30 Global Influencers of HR Tech 2018, and Top 30 HR Influencers Perkbox. We're extremely happy and honored to have someone of his stature today on our interview series. Welcome, Andrew. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Anushka. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here talking to you today.
The pleasure is absolutely ours. Thank you for making the time. So the first question I had for you, Andrew, was, you've had quite an incredible journey, an exciting journey so far. So can you just, in a nutshell, tell us a little about your story? And how is it that you got started with the idea of being a workforce futurist?
Well, listen, I'm glad we've got a couple of hours to talk about that today. Do you know what? It didn't feel exciting at every point in this journey, but I can tell you a little bit about it. So it started off, I was intrigued by psychology, how us funny humans see the world. So I studied psychology, and I was also fascinated by the opening line in a book by a guy called Alan Turing that says, "Can computers think?" So I was fascinated by AI, artificial intelligence, back in the mid-90s, and actually did a master's in that and was programming neural networks at that stage. Now, my choice at that point was to do a PhD studying people with head injuries, but I actually became a management consultant instead, and then worked on probably 30 different transformation programs around the world in the HR space. And the question there was always, how do we organize HR to get the best results for the company? And do you know what? That didn't change much. If people were running prisons, hospitals, train factories, service centers in Bangalore, the question's the same. How do we get the most out of our people? How do we increase engagement? How do we achieve our business goals? And after working on lots of transformation programs, I realized that the things changing our organizations are the mega trends, the demographics, all the big technology changes, how the internet has changed the workforce. And so I wanted to increasingly work on what those trends are and how they actually impact people management. So I've recently set up the Workforce Futurist newsletter to explore this and research this really as a community, to ask some tricky questions and get people's input.
That's lovely, Andrew. That's a great journey you've had so far. So, coming to the next question, is it true that, futurists are consistently, wanting to connect technology and corporate culture? Is there a link between the two, and why is it that they're always concerned with connecting the two?
It's a great question. I'll tell you a secret. I honestly don't think you can really predict the future, right? Because all we're doing is, if we're looking 10 years ahead, is we're looking at the world through our now goggles, our now spectacles, We can't tell. Who would have envisaged the impact that the smartphone would have on our lives 10, 15 years ago? We just wouldn't have imagined it. But what we can do is look at how these trends are going to impact our organizations in the near term. And so I do think that technology has had a major impact. And in HR, we focus on, oh, wow, HR technology, how does that make my life easier? How can I attract and manage and process more recruits and applicants? But actually, the real impact is how technology has changed the workforces for the companies we work for. So increasingly, people are able to get meaning from work, but also from things on the internet. They're able to meet up with people. They're able to learn on the internet. So we're not reliant on the bricks and mortar that we used to be in the last in history. So yes, technology does impact corporate culture very much, and it's changing all the time.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on this one. And especially with the pandemic, I think digitalization and technology has been used more than before, right? Especially with certain sections of the population, like probably the senior citizens and the boomers who might not be very quick and fast at adapting to technology. Should the pandemic not have come?
I think you're right. The technology companies say they've seen a shift. The massive acceleration in getting grandma to use WhatsApp on the family groups, So we're starting to use technology. I think it's wonderful. And my parents doing online supermarket deliveries and using technology to help out. So that's been wonderful. And it does show us what we can achieve in a short amount of time if we need to. Another thing that's really important and relevant to work and HR is, particularly in the United States, in the UK, it was about how do we pay people really quickly so they can buy food and services to replace their wages. And the government put these schemes in place really quickly. I think that's been really impressive. But one thing that people didn't quite realize is that the number of people who don't have a normal contract of employment. They're doing part-time work, different types of contracts. They're earning money from vlogging, live streaming, trading. They're buying and selling bandanas on eBay. Do you know what I mean? So I think what we've realized is the diversity of the way people earn money and work. It's been fascinating.
Absolutely. I really second you on that. So, Andrew, what is the role, according to you, of analytics and big data when it comes to, considering posterity and future possibilities in the workplace?
Well, there's always been tons of data in HR. We've always had almost too much data, but we haven't always used it as effectively as we needed to. But that's why, 20 odd years ago, I was so excited about using analytics, using insights into our own behavior to make the world better, to make ourselves happier, all of this stuff. So I'm a real proponent of using people analytics in the workplace. Here's a vision. So you have to bear with me a bit because it's maybe years away. But all our HR processes, procedures, and management processes are geared up around individuals. Right? But we know, for peopleHum to design software or launch a media campaign, it's a team effort, right? So all our work is really in teams. So the analytics start to come in when we start to work out how can we make teams more productive? What happens if we've got 6 or 7 people in our team, somebody leaves? How do we know what kind of person would be a really good fit to replace them in that team? So if imagine we've got 100 data points for hiring somebody, from demographics to ability to psychometrics, I don't know, to their body language on video interviews, all this kind of stuff. If we actually start to measure that data and then measure how effective the subsequent team performance was, feeding that back using pattern recognition and AI tools, we can start to find the really rich source of what predicts who is going to be a good worker in our team. So that's a vision, and it's really difficult to put in place for lots of reasons. But I think that's where we can get to, where we can allow teams to be more self-sufficient, to use this data to create suggestions for people who would be good in their team, for sourcing work more broadly. I think it's really exciting if we get it right. And, in HR, we're really well positioned to design these tools, use these tools, and make a real difference. So, yeah, it's an exciting future, but very different from the last few decades in personnel management.
Absolutely. And I think now change is happening at a pace like never before, right? And that was some really enlightening perspective that you gave us, Andrew. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, can you share with our audience your views on how blockchain will actually change the way we work and will have a hold on the future of work?
Anushka, when people mention blockchain, the first thing they think of is Bitcoin, right? So let's be clear, we're not going to be trading Bitcoin or discussing crypto futures on this call. But the underlying technology behind Bitcoin is a rather slow, distributed database called blockchain. Now, that is potentially really impactful for HR. When I think about it, of all the emerging technology, blockchain, it doesn't speak to you like Siri or AI. It's not like going to build a house for you with 3D printers. It's not going to take out your kidney stones with robotics. Do you know what I mean? It's not as impactful as exciting. It's as exciting as databases can be, right? But I think the impact will be on work. So I like blogging and speaking and sharing my ideas widely. Do you know what? They're not all going to hit the mark, but I like to think and learn publicly. And I wrote an article a few years ago about what is the impact of blockchain on HR, sharing some views. And there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of interest. And a guy called Don Tapscott wrote to me. He's one of the world's great management thinkers. And he was setting up the Blockchain Research Institute. And he said, Andy, I want you to research the impact of blockchain on HR. And the first thing I did was to look at the world of talent and HR through a critique of the internet, right? All about data. What we do in HR is give our data away, our career data, rather freely to recruiters, to LinkedIn. Then that data is then used by them. It's monetized and sold on, etc. And it's helpful for us. We get a great service, LinkedIn benefit, and employers benefit. But we rely on centralized servers, which can get hacked. And also, some of that data isn't verified. We can, on our CVs and resumes, there's a lot of little white lies, I'm afraid. Doesn't all stack up. And the CV was invented in the 1450s by Leonardo da Vinci, that? So, we're still using it. So what we need to do is bring work into the digital age, bring our data up so it's secure, it's owned by us, and it's verifiable. And then it will be searchable, right? That is really exciting because then we can find the best graphic designer, the best podcaster, the best AI programmer in the world because we're going to have this data to be able to find them and search with them. So then you basically get in a relationship between the employer and the worker. I think that's really exciting because it's much more efficient and it will allow people to reach their potential. So blockchain starts off with being a slow database, but it enables us to verify data. It enables more efficient platforms in the workspace, and even to pay people in different ways rather than the monthly payroll. So it's really exciting for me, and it's alongside all the other demographic changes we're seeing in the decentralized workforce. Yes, I'm rather excited by it, and now. You might know this, but the industry is starting to create standards for using blockchain technology for data, resumes, CVs, and in recruitment. And that's a game changer.
Absolutely, absolutely. This emerging concept is something that really will guide the future of work. And it's really interesting, and it's lovely to see the passion with which you talk on the subject. That's great. And
well, listen, my passion's to make work better. My passion isn't distributed cryptographically databases at all. My passion is to make work better. And I actually see this as really helping that.
Right. And technology is really now being used as an enabler, right, to help people actually probably, channelize their attention and focus on more humanistic aspects so that technology can take part of the routine, mundane jobs.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, in HR over the last, say, 10 years, there's been a big move from on-premise to cloud-based applications that peopleHum know all about. But, for our core HR systems, that's reduced some of the admin. It's melted away a bit of the admin, maybe 20%, maybe more in some organizations. So that's been an efficiency move. Definitely. But I think the next move is more around insights. Where can we get insights about teams and about productivity? And that's the really exciting thing. That's where HR is going to rocket up the value chain.
That's also, it sounds so interesting. Surely would be in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
Yeah. So, Andrew, just to kind of wrap this interview up, do you have some last sound bites you'd like to share our audience with?
I wouldn't say sound bites, but a message, I think, is that right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? We've got all this technology and we've got a burning platform to make sure we can fix some of our societies all around the world. But we've got all the foundations in place to build this now, right? And I think that we have to be optimistic, but it means redefining what we think of as work, redefining a little bit around what people need as a society in terms of payments and services, and thinking broadly, being more relaxed about formal employment, thinking there's many ways to earn money and then utilizing the technology to do that. And throughout history we've had crises and we've come through them, okay, and sometimes we've come through them in a better place. So that's my final comment is let's build something better post this pandemic. And a message to everyone is, hopefully you and yours stay well as well.
Thank you, Andrew. I love the last message of positivity. I think our audience is surely going to benefit from it as well.
Thanks very much. It's been lovely speaking to you, Anushka. Thank you.
Likewise. So, Andrew, it's been such a wonderful interview. It's been an honor to actually interview, and I'm really glad that you took out the time to share your views with us. And personally, it's been an enriching experience for me. So I think if I can learn so much in like a 20-minute interview, I think our audience are surely going to benefit from it as well.
Thank you again. It's been delightful to speak to you, Anushka. Thank you.
Same. Thank you. We shall surely stay in touch and have a happy and healthy time ahead of you.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.